This one is really on the role of teacher agency in classroom and behavior management. We're going to talk about the role of teacher agency and how teachers being responsible and heard is has tremendous impact on classroom behaviors. So let's see here. This is an experiment of many types here. This is a program called Gamma. It is an AI program. It will actually create the entire slideshow for you if you put in your topic. I did not like what it came up with, but I used it as a platform to start off with. And so you'll notice there might be a little bit of funkiness or whatever, but it is kind of interesting that much of what you present, you could have AI do for you. So, all right. Oh, I guess this is gonna be hard to do. Oh, you guys can just talk amongst yourselves there. All right, one break gets canceled forever. Which one would you say goodbye to?
You got to break. Which one would be spring, winter, or summer?
Spring break,
Spring break.
winter break, right?
Yeah.
Spring break.
We're in agreement.
Number 2.
Wow, usually there's a great debate on that. So this is a great icebreaker for your classrooms if you're ever so inclined. This comes from Ed Tomorrow, or First Five. They will send you in your email something like this each day. Let's see. Oh, I was gonna have it up there for you, and I took it down. So this is a nice icebreaker that, like I said, that they will send to you in your email every day if you're so inclined and you do this kind of work. This can be great ways to connect to your kids. So this is today's. There's some great ways to get into some leading questions. Each day they will have something different that you could do at the door to greet your kids. This was what you were looking at was yesterday's quick connect. Today's quick connect is a would you rather. Lots of my fellow instructors like to use this one as a check-in. Which one are you? How are you feeling today? Mindfulness. How to build classroom positivity. There's often a video. Oh, here's the video. Circle of Kindness is usually a very nice video. So it's a good resource if you guys are so interested. It's like I said, it will come to you each day at tomorrow.com. And you can always email me afterwards and I will send you a direct link to it. All right, about me. So I am Aaron Sorensen. I'm glad to see you guys here. I am the director of the Catskill Regional Teacher Center, and prior to that, I spent a few years teaching at Morris, and then prior to that, I was at Gilbertsville Mount Upton. And I came to the area to work at the Upstate Home for Children. So I have quite a bit of background on working with some challenging behaviors. I was a part of the original cohort of teachers that were going through the applied behavioral analysis degree. I did not end up getting it. I didn't do the very last course because I decided I didn't think it was a great program. But that is how lots of people are doing things these days. I will have lots of opinions, lots of comments and statements, and take me with a grain of salt, please. I just get deeply passionate about things, and so then I sometimes say things that I should not be saying or something. And just be aware that I feel like it's very important for me to make you realize that my opinions, my thoughts are my own and not reflective of the Catskill Regional Teacher Center or some of the other organizations of which I might be affiliated. So tell me a little bit about you guys. I think we can do that. Can we do that? And
Sure.
what are you doing here?
Well, I'm Johanna Brown, and I'm running the special programs over here at Otsego Christian Academy. So I was pretty excited to hear about this little program because I think that it's always a benefit to understand our role in how we set up our classrooms for success.
Okay, cool.
I'm Tracy Wood and I teach math to grades 9 through 12 here. You guys can go.
I'm Dana Sheldon and we met at Morris when I was there and you were there. And I teach science 7 through 11.
Amy Vanderwerker, I teach middle school math, and so I'm looking forward to this chat with you to get some tips.
And I'm off screen over here. My name is Megan Bolino. I am the elementary academic support, which is our fancy way of saying resource rooms / special ed.
All right, very good. Thank you guys. That was everybody, right?
Yep.
All right, before I go on, let me talk a little bit about some of the programs that we have for you. My newsletter isn't quite out yet, but I'm working on it, and you have a little bit of a heads up here. So I heard 2 of you guys say that you have a math network that you are working on, that you teach math. We do have a math network now, and it's run by Dr. Elise Stoddard. Fantastic professor. She's really into constructivist math, and making math come to life and hands-on math kinds of stuff. I don't want to speak for her, but she's fantastic, and so you guys might want to join that one. Dana, we have a science network led by Tom Fralick. We just got into ACAST last time we met, which is kind of a way of looking at the new science standards, the next gen science standards, and how to assess them. Really kind of interesting. We're working on some work with the MIWI programs, or the Meaningful Watershed experiences. So you might be interested in that. And what else did I hear you people talk about that we might have stuff for? The elementary, we would love to see elementary teachers participate in any of our networks. We know that that's a major issue, that a lot of elementary teachers need the higher level cognitive understanding of science, math, or whatever the subject area is. But we're struggling to get elementary teachers to come. But every one of these networks would love to see elementary teachers come. If you are teaching basic reading kinds of things, the AIS MTSS network might be one that you're interested in joining as well. We have lots of programs coming up. We have a program on advocacy for teachers, and that relates to the legislative forum. We're in the political season here. And so how do you talk to your legislators, and how do you raise the needs that you're seeing in your region and your school? We also have a wellness ambassador program. You guys would all qualify because this is for Otsego County schools. We will pay you, what did we say? I believe it's a $50 stipend to participate in this program. Plus we will have a meal for you. There's still space available. If you're interested, contact me and let me know, because we expected more people than what we're getting. National board certification, that's for teachers that are really wanting to dive into their craft. It's considered the gold standard for teaching. We have lots of programs related to educational technology. Dr. Gina Solano is just really incredible. And so these are actually will all be Zoom now. These will all be virtual. So I need to remember to change that flyer. And then we do have some space open still for yoga, and these are all free programs. So the yoga is here. So here again, for those of you guys doing math, there is a really awesome program coming from the Algebra Project. It's called the Trip Game, and it's really based on this idea of you could take a standard trip, and in that discussing about that trip, you can be teaching algebraic concepts, and it's really kind of embedded kind of in the whole process. And so kids, the idea is that kids use their own language to understand algebra. Really kind of powerful. If you guys participate in this, we're hoping, and Bill Crombley has agreed to come back through Zoom to interact with the teachers that participate in these things. I'm involved with the Oneonta World of Learning, and we're going to have a paint fest again, but this time we're going to also add in a workshop for art and science teachers. We definitely know that art teachers are often forgotten about with professional development. We have several book studies coming up. All of these book studies we will provide you a copy of the book. We will ask you to return it at the end of the book study. However, if you're like me and you're one of those people that has to write in the book to really get the concept out of it, you can keep the book, but we really would like them back. But there's several of them. These two are on project-based learning. This has a lot to do with the culturally responsive kinds of things. Pillars is a social emotional learning. So we hope that you guys will come join us in some of our other programs. All right, but you guys are here for this, so we're gonna move on here. Just quickly with our norms and expectations, be respectful. We're here because we want to grow and recognize in each other, so we're not critical of each other. This is a safe space to learn and explore ideas. This may include non-traditional thinking that may be triggering to some, right? So that's me. I am a person who likes to think outside the box, and I will often kind of just run with some ideas, and they may not be accepted norms, and just realize I'm just running ideas, and hopefully maybe you'll be that kind of a person too. Assume the best and proceed with an open mind. So again, if I say something that's offensive, I have no desire to offend anybody, right? So just assume that I am coming with the best of intentions. Be honest with feelings. Please use I statements. For example, I'm not comfortable with, or I appreciate that thinking. Recognize and be respectful of levels of expertise present. No one knows everything. So some of you guys may be very knowledgeable in what we'll talk about today, and some of you guys, it might be brand new. Safely push yourself to participate even when it's uncomfortable, but you never have to share. So I'm gonna ask you to read a couple of things and do a few things, but if you wanna pass, you can pass. Respect the privacy of students, schools, and coworkers. Sometimes you will want to share a story or two. Obviously, you guys all work at the same location, and so you'll likely know who you're talking about, but do the best that you can to anonymize when possible. All right. So what I would contend is that you are the most important person in the classroom. A lot of people will say it's the student, but you are the one in charge of the classroom, and you set the tone. And what our kids need is one caring adult. And so this is a really powerful video that we are going to spend a few minutes watching.
I tried to kill myself with a bottle of pills. And the fact of the matter is I trusted no one. And looking back, I guess, how could I? From the time my parents left me, to the time another foster kid raped me, to the time I was bullied so bad, I genuinely could not fathom a world where I could trust him. So fast forward, here I am, 14 years old, and entering my umpteenth foster home. I was a veteran at this whole sort of getting kicked out of one home, moved to the next. You meet these people who were like literally complete and total strangers 10 minutes ago, who are now apparently your mom and dad. You know, kids don't take candy from strangers, just move in with them. So I'm sitting in the van in the driveway of this next home, and that's when I see Rodney. He's standing up there on the front porch, and immediately I notice this is a large fella. He's 6'5", he's 350 pounds, and as a 14-year-old boy, I couldn't help but notice when he's turned to the side like that, he's shaped like a lowercase b. It's amusing now, but in the moment it was tactical. Maybe that's how I could get kicked out of this home. Maybe I could get under his skin about his weight. So I move in with him. I'm being obnoxious. I'm being ungrateful. I'm being just downright rude and mean. I'm setting things on fire. And 3 years later, I can't shake this guy. Rodney won't kick me out. So I step up my game. I go to the local bank in town. I open up a checking account. I put about $90 in there. Then I proceed to write $10,000 worth of checks. Obviously, checks bouncing one after the next after the next. One check that bounced was for my car insurance. I'm going down the road speeding, Stillwater, Oklahoma, 88 miles an hour. No car insurance, no driver's license. I get pulled over, handcuffed, thrown in the back of a cop car, and sent to jail. I call Rodney. Like, Rodney, I'm in Stillwater. I'm in jail. I'll tell you the whole thing when you get here. Can you please come bail me out tonight? He said, I will come bail you out, but not until tomorrow. Rodney frustratingly believes sometimes one of the most loving things you could do for a kid was allow them to sit in either the success of their wonderful choice or the stupidity of their foolish choice. Next morning, he comes, bails me out, exactly as promised. We have a long, very awkward car ride home. No one says anything. We get back to the house. He's like, we need to sit down and talk. And I knew this moment had finally come. So Rodney, his wife, sent me down to give me the talk I've had a dozen times. He looks in my eyes and says, son, you can keep causing problems. You can keep trying to mess up. You can keep pushing us away. You can keep trying to get us to kick you out of here, but you've got to get it through your thick head, son. We don't see you as a problem. We see you as an opportunity. And in that moment, all my skepticism came to the surface. And I thought, what a cheesy, stupid thing to say to a 17-year-old kid. But then I was overwhelmed with the reality that this guy actually meant it. He didn't see what I was, what was on the surface, the obnoxious kid, the ungrateful kid, the kid getting suspended. He saw what I could do. It was genuinely my turning point. Statistically, I am supposed to be dead, in jail, or homeless, but because of one caring adult. I'm not a statistic. Every kid is one caring adult away from success. Every child who winds up doing well has had at least one stable and committed relationship with a supportive adult. My friend and mentor, Reggie Joyner, taught me to think about it this way. In this jar are 936 marbles. Each one of these marbles represents a single week from the birth of a kid until that kid turns 18 years old. So if you know a 9-year-old, you've only got 468 marbles or weeks, however you want to look at it, remaining. You know a 16-year-old? You got 104 marbles remaining. Right here, we are looking at time. In fact, you're looking at all the time or all of the weeks you have left to influence this kid, or this kid before they turn 18 and begin making critical life decisions without your presence. The difference between a statistic and a success story is you.
Where did it go? You are the most important person. So what I was hoping to do here, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do it. It looks like you guys have computers. I wanted to talk about teacher agency. Teacher agency refers to the ability of teachers to make autonomous decisions and take intentional actions to positively influence classroom dynamics and student behavior. And so what I was going to have you do is take a moment to read these articles. There's several of them. And I will split you guys up so that you can read one and then share with others. But let me go over them quickly first here. So Learning Forward is a organization that does a lot of work with professional learning. Our state standards are really kind of built off of the standards that Learning Forward set for teachers. So that's a really terrific article in the Power of Teacher Agency. ASCD is another organization that is really powerful with teacher development and teacher training. Okay, and the last one, is that, this is just a general article that I picked up off of the internet, but it really powerful article. So what we were going to do is split you guys up a little bit. So we'll have Megan read the first article, and as well as Dana, and maybe you guys, since you guys are in one room, throwing me off a little bit. I was expecting everybody to be at home. And the first article would be The Power of Teaching. The second article will have Joanne Brown and Amy read, and that would be the ASD article. And I'm gonna, how am I getting you guys to find these articles?
We've got it.
We got it.
All right, I did send it to you, right? Okay, all right, good. And then Jennifer and Tracy, if you would read Article 3. And what I'd like you to do as you're going through that is come up with your own definition of what a teacher agency means, and come up with two ideas that you would like your administrator to know, and one idea that you want to share with somebody else. So what is teacher agency? Two ideas that you would wish your administrator knew, and something that you will share with somebody else. And so we're going to give you about 15 minutes to do this, because I'm going to put it to Jennifer. And are you able to go into a breakout room? I don't know. I'm going to try to put Jennifer and Tracy into a breakout room so they can discuss their article. But the rest of you guys read and take a few minutes to discuss. We'll read the article and then discuss it, and then share out.
Sarah, and this is Jennifer. I'm actually driving, so I can't read an article right now.
All right.
Okay. Let me find it first here.
Yep.
You know what we could do? We could kind of
Aaron, there were only 2 articles that you sent us the links to. How do I find the third one?
All right, let me grab it for you now and put it in the chat there for you.
The gamma one. And then scroll down.
Oh. Which?
No, keep going.
So I just put it in the chat for you.
Keep going.
Do you see that?
Yeah.
You put it in the chat?
Yep, the link. Were you able to find that?
I don't know. Hang on a second.
It's the definition of teacher agency is good to know.
What's the article that I'm supposed to read? The third one?
The third one. It's
So yours is the one from the Brookings Institute.
Yes, that's the one.
I'm gonna send it to you in Google Chat.
Do you want me to send it to you in email?
No, I'm I'm still looking for it. All right, I got it.
Got it?
Yeah.
Jen, I wish I had thought about it. Maybe we could have done like a podcast or something for you. Oh, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen because you guys are reading on your own. When you're ready, Tracy, you and I can chat about it.
You want me to tell her what's in the article?
Oh, well, we can discuss the article one, like, so when we report out, I forget if I did it properly, but I wanted people to provide a summary of it.
Yeah,
Come up with a couple of things that they would like the administrator to know.
yeah, I
And-
heard that. I
Uh,
didn't know because Jen can't read it, I don't think.
Yeah, so since she can't read it, you and I can chat about it, and then she'll pick up.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. Yeah, I'm still reading.
Yep. You finish reading it yet?
I'm on the last myth here. Okay.
The
I was
general thought?
unfamiliar with, well, I was unfamiliar with the term scaling, so it took me a little while to understand how they were using that term in this capacity, scaling innovation.
So what did you take it to mean? I hadn't picked that up.
Well, I mean, the title of the article was 3 myths about teacher agency and why they hold back scaling education innovations. I thought it was an interesting term. I just hadn't used it in that capacity before, but recognizing how it holds back the success and efficiency and effectiveness of innovations in education.
And keeping things from going large scale, right? I think that's what they're kind of getting at.
Right.
Interesting.
But they made some good points about how as far as the definition of teacher agency, being that teachers are an active agent and not just passive curriculum deliverers, and need to be incorporated as such.
Yeah, I think that makes, yeah, absolutely. I like the discussion about the bureaucratic systems that kind of co-opt any kind of progress that's being made. Right? I think that was in the myth 1.
Yep. Yeah.
Doesn't that seem to happen all the time? Like you just get moving on something and then it's like, oh, here's the next thing.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that one-off trainings are not enough to create lasting changes, that you need more development on those, not just trying to fit things into your pre-existing practice.
Teacher centers are built off of that idea that learning should be continuous and ongoing, that you can't just do one workshop, one session and think it's going to make a class pass.
Right. Yep.
But yet that's what we seem to do, right? Like if you have the one professional development day and like if you get that, right?
Yep. And then you move on to the next thing.
What did you think of myth 2?
Oh, for sure. I mean, that was the one about the incorporating them right into the phases of innovation to help them get on board. Is that what that one was about?
Yeah, I'm always frustrated with this one. So I tend to try to be an early adopter, but of course, you know, the
Yeah.
state's rolling out some initiative or this, that, or the other thing, and by the time I get involved, it's already been decided, and they just bring me along to go, "Don't you like what we just did?" I'm like, "Well,
Right.
some of it."
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like it gives, gives us more ownership over it when we've been a part of the process from the beginning and understand why it's being done.
Yeah, and you know, when they're developing it and they're not experiencing the lives that we're experiencing it, they don't always get it.
Yep.
And yet then we are bad teachers because we're resistive to that change, right? Like,
Yeah. Yep.
how about myth 3?
Oh, about having authentic orientation meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the way that things are rolled out, sometimes, they could be great ideas, but
It's
if they're not
exhausting.
right.
Right. I just listening to what they want teachers to do. I am exhausted just listening to it, let alone
Yep.
trying to do anything about it. Right. I love that line. It's like adding new learning or work to an overloaded teachers are just being downplayed. Like
Right.
they just don't appreciate it.
Right.
Teacher burnout and
A-
reform fatigue are real.
And yet if you do it right, it could increase the teacher buy-in, and be a much more effective change.
Well, and what my premise in putting this together was that teachers are smart, knowledgeable people that, given time and power, can really make a difference. And it's really our jumping through hoops that make us burn out, get tired, be inadequate, right? It's not because we're not good, it's because the system is making us struggle with so much stuff.
Right.
So when we
Yeah.
report out, how do you want to summarize the article?
Um, um, summarize it. I don't know. I guess I kind of go back to what that definition is, that good teachers are active agents, and so they should be treated as active agents and not just as passive curriculum deliverers, that they should be seen as a part of the process, and that their workload, matters, and their level of commitment matters. And if you want your innovations to be effective, if you want your changes to be effective, then, you need to take that into consideration, and see them, as who they are, and the part that they need to play in this.
That was so wonderfully said. That was great. Can you check with your cohort people there if they're ready to discuss as a group of the 3 different articles?
Are you guys
Or are they
ready?
still reading?
You need more time, Dana? Maybe one more minute for one of the groups?
Absolutely. Yep.
Mhm.
And hopefully Jen can jump back on and converse a little bit with us. This is just so typical. She came from another meeting, right? So she's like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna be because I have to go from another meeting. When
Yep.
we're struggling to get people to come to our programs, and when they're coming, they're often doing like 4 or 5 different things. The workload is just so unbelievable.
Yep.
All right. All right, so the first group, tell us about your article and what was your definition of teacher agency, and what do you wish administrators knew?
First group, you guys.
Was that us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, hello. Ours was about, effective professional development and how to get teachers more involved, where they'll buy into it and be part of it. Or, because usually it's administrative, we assign, and this is what you're doing, where, teachers can be more involved from the decision maker to implementation to presentation. Buy more important.
That's better. It was hard to hear, so that's great.
Oh, okay. And so it had 7 steps, and some of them would be really good. I mean, because as the article says that in every school, there's a wealth of knowledge. Everybody has, all the teachers have that. And that can be harnessed and to, put out there to help the professional learning on, so basically with the agency, when you have the agency, you're taking more control of it than being dictated what you have to do.
We were kind of saying how we were lucky, our administrations already tried to enact some of these ideas at the bottom, 7 things that district can do, but our problem really is it starts with the teachers and teacher agency, and we have to all be willing to try something different and shake it up and listen to what other people know and what they can do and take that, adapt it, use it, and just be more of a community in what we know and what our strengths are.
Cool. All right, and group 2.
Well, ours piggybacks directly on that article. We have several of the same ideas. It says here that teacher agency is the capacity of teachers to act purposefully and constructively to direct their personal growth and contribute to the growth of their colleagues. And it's kind of what we're doing here. So, but the idea is that Amy pointed out that one of the things she really liked about this article toward the end is that it says that every teacher has a gift to share with its school, with their school. And administration should have the responsibility to, utilize and access those gifts, but it's also up to the teachers to share what their expertise is and to take that proactive stance and utilizing it in their classroom and perhaps helping others see how they can be used in other classrooms as well. Am I missing anything?
Just that I like also just before that, it's, parents expect us to be 100% right all the, 100% of the time. And, that's not gonna happen. So teachers must know that mistakes aren't only inevitable, but also valuable in building institutional knowledge.
That's
I
right.
open my classes every year with kids. I'm gonna make a mistake.
Uh-huh.
So just so you know, it's okay, and you're gonna make mistakes. And so, recognizing we're not perfect.
Awesome. And if we're not
We
making
give our
mistakes,
best.
we're not pushing our boundaries.
Right, that too. Yep.
And then Tracy, you're up on the last one, I think.
I am. Oh, so I have to talk again? Okay.
What they didn't hear what we were talking about. And you had said
That's
it's so
true.
wonderful.
That's true. My article talked about teachers as being active agents, not just passive curriculum deliverers, passive curriculum deliverers. And I liked that, kind of grabbed at me that we are agents for change. We are agents for learning. We are, we need to be active parts of the process, and not just there to read from the book and, follow what the person before us did. So
And I don't know how things are at your school, but I feel like in public schools especially, they're taking more and more agency away from teachers. And for me anyway, and maybe I stand alone, but so many times I go to a professional development training or something, and I come back feeling just so stupid and so incapable and like overwhelmed by the amount of work they're giving us. And I think it's so important for us to turn around and recognize what we're doing and that we have a lot of knowledge within what we've been doing all these years. So we're gonna go on to the next one here. Oh. So how does teacher agency play into classroom management? Teacher agency empowers the educators to create supportive learning environments, establish clear expectations, develop student agency, and foster meaningful student engagement, leading to improved academic outcomes. And what I like about that is that idea of student agency. So the more we empower teachers, the more teachers will empower their own students. And one of the ways that we do this is by constantly reflecting on our current practice, thinking about how that can be changed, and what things are going really well. So here's a research article that supports it. I will put the link in the chat, but I don't think we'll worry about trying to read it now. And I think you guys have access to this document, so you can always go back and read this later. One of the things that I do wish we were more professional in the sense that we had time to read journals and what the literature and the research is saying. So I try to provide that whenever possible to help teachers, you know, because it's hard to find a lot of that kind of stuff. So just as a general discussion, what do you wish you did better related to student engagement?
Yeah, I guess I wish I could, I feel like in a lot of ways, engagement is pretty good in my classroom, but if I wasn't there, they wouldn't be engaged enough to learn on their own or to carry the learning to the next level on their own. I don't feel like I'm great at challenging them to do that or inspiring them to do that, maybe. I mean, there's one or two here and there, but yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because the younger levels, a lot of it is just, well, on the younger levels, a lot of it's just like, why? You know, because I have to, you know, like they're getting beyond the, because I have to idea is, you know.
A lot of times, I mean, where I'm at, you really plan on any type of method of engaging a student, because 9 times out of 10, if that's not the method that's going to engage them. So I've been definitely learning this year to kind of adapt as I go and say, okay, this was my course of action. It's not working. Let's switch it up. And it's as simple sometimes as, you know, giving the kid a highlighter and telling them they can do it instead of you doing it to show them, and then you see their face light up. So it's just being more willing to roll with the punches and step away from what you thought your lesson was going to look like and adapt on go.
So related to that, what do you think you do really well to support student engagement?
Plus the flip side.
I feel like I do it well, so that's good for everybody.
So we did hear from you.
That's, you know, it's not. my brain works like that, I think. So to try to shift gears and say, well, maybe this is what's tripping you up. I think it probably mostly comes down to the confidence of just knowing that
It's okay to try.
it's okay, yeah, it's okay to just go with the flow and let them lead you sometimes, and maybe you figure it out, and then you go, I'm gonna use that again. Instead of trying to just rely on all of the tools in the toolkit that you have.
Yep.
Like I have a lot of tools, I just, need to trust that it's okay to get new tools from kids sometimes too.
Yeah.
What about the higher levels?
What do we do well?
What do you do well to engage?
Well, we do a lot of hands-on, a lot of different, you know. I do a lot of hands-on activities, a lot of interactive notebooks, so it isn't just a worksheet most of the time for their notes, and we color, we do all sorts of different things just to try to keep them interested in what we're doing.
How about the fact that you had the 7th graders making feeds before class starts? You know, I mean, that's total engagement.
My
Has-
5-year-old has to be like with it. Yeah,
But yeah, even, you can get students engaged even on a level that isn't just academics in order to prepare them for academics, So having them there on time and, getting their hot drink ready and being seated before the next bell, and that's huge, I think,
Okay, well, and I do on Monday, every Monday, share one thing from the weekend. And, they look forward to that.
Mhm.
I've been thinking about this, or I've been, and if I forget, they tell me.
Yeah.
Wait, you didn't ask us what we did.
Yeah.
And more of them are now asking me what I did on my weekend too, so it's going that way.
Good.
Cool.
So cool. Kids will work for you, right? That's really what motivates them. When you've got them, they're going to be willing to work for you. When teachers have a sense of agency, students are more likely to feel safe, motivated, and supported, resulting in reduced disruptive behaviors and enhanced overall classroom climate. Right? So when you have confidence in yourself, they're going to notice that. So believe in yourself. Recognize how our systems are creating cognitive dissonance. So do you guys know what cognitive dissonance is? Who can explain that a little bit?
Thinking differently outside the box, not. Considered normal.
And things don't make sense together.
There you go. So cognitive dissonance is a mental conflict that occurs when your beliefs don't line up with your actions. So when you believe in yourself, you recognize that you'll realize that you have a challenging job, right? And so when your kids are acting up, and I hear it all the time of all these classroom behavior management problems, and so important for you guys to realize that you have a challenging job, right? And no one is perfect, and that you're human and you're doing the best that you can. And you guys already mentioned the fact that, gee, if you're not pushing your boundaries, you're not making mistakes, right? And so mistakes are actually really good. So again, this is a really fantastic article about that cognitive dissonance. And one of the things that it mentions is the effects of cognitive dissonance, right? It can cause discomfort, stress, and anxiety. Yeah, right. And you can think of when those kids are giving you a hard time, that's when their stress levels are going up, right? And the degree of these effect, affects often depend on how much disparity there is between a conflict of the belief and how much the belief means that person, as well as how the person copes with that contradiction. So we're seeing a lot of teachers burn out, leave the profession, right? Because education itself has become a cognitive dissonance for many, right? What is education for? And it's not aligning up with what they believe education is for. And we need to bring those teachers back into the fold. Signs of cognitive dissonance. General discomfort that has no obvious or clear source, confusion, feeling conflicted over a disputed subject matter, people saying you're a hypocrite, right? Especially kids will call you out on that a lot of times. Wait, but you're not very curious yourself, right? Like, I've heard that before. Being aware of conflicting views and desires, but not knowing what to do with them. All right, so what are some examples of cognitive dissonance that you see or experience? Think about our kids, like, right? Aren't they experiencing it a lot? What are we seeing and experiencing from them? Are you guys not seeing cognitive dissonance? Is that why you're quiet?
No, I think
No,
it's
just
really
thinking.
common.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Yeah, I have a really smart math student in middle school that just does not perform what he knows and misbehaves, and so, you know, I try to challenge him and positive reinforcement, and I'm stupid, you know, and continual. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, doesn't add up.
We definitely have one.
So the cognitive dissonance is in the fact that you feel he's very capable, but he's not producing very capable results, right?
Exactly, yep,
Yeah, and that's so frustrating.
very frustrating.
I think even of how like, you know, after giving an assessment of some kind and realizing that a good portion of the class didn't get it, and yet I feel like I did an amazing job of teaching it. Or they'll say, you didn't tell us that, and I know I told them that, and I know I, you know, told them 3 different ways that, and somehow it still just didn't compute, and I just can't even believe it sometimes.
I love how you said that though, because you put the onus on yourself and not on them, right? It wasn't, oh, you know, I told them and they didn't get it. It was, oh, you know, the way you said that was, you put the onus on you. That was really nice. And in my world, when I hear assessments, that's one of the cognitive points of dissonance for me, right? Because I don't know, again, your school operates a little differently than a lot of the public schools, but you know, the kids are being tested and sorted and doing all these things that almost never are does it help them build their confidence. You know, the high flyers, yes, maybe, but the lower end kids are always kind of borderline, or they're almost close to failing. And so half of us are running around going, oh, you kids are really capable and you can do all these great and wonderful things. But then we have the system that says you need to grade them and put them in these boxes and label them and get them extra resources and support and help. And
thinking somewhat similar along that line that I'm a counselor in a public school and I'm at the middle school level, and I see our staff members working so hard and really trying to come up with lessons and activities and working their preps and staying late, and then the kids were excited because they just came to school today. So there's a mismatch with the effort level. And we're trying to work on that about why is it that some of our kids aren't coming to school or putting that effort in when We know they have the ability, but it, for whatever reason, doesn't appear to be important to them, not nearly as important as it is to our teachers.
Yeah, that's a great point. Education itself seems to be shifting and changing the importance of it, right? Yeah. Huh. Yeah. Education at one point was the pathway up. Is that still the case? A lot of people are thinking not so much, and maybe it really is just about status quo, and some kids are really never going to access the higher levels of things. Hmm.
Things because we exist rather than because we heard.
Do we take it for granted, you think? This day and age, I mean.
Take education for granted.
Yeah, I think we do. Or the kids do.
Right.
Like, some of the kids I have in my class, you know, it's like, they're so intelligent, and that's not what I'm seeing come out.
And I mean, generation one where their parents are in, you know, we've got young parents, they're in debt from college that, and what, they're doing nothing with a degree because there's no job. So there's that, the whole concept of, I don't need this.
Yeah.
I don't need a degree, you know, I.
Just the motivation is.
The clarity moving forward is not really there. You know, we do talk about the importance of going on to college, but then we look at the trades and how much money people can earn going into the trades, right? And I totally support the trades, but like it is kind of interesting.
And then on the flip side, we're seeing a complete lack of just basic life skills from our kids. If you want to talk about, you know, forget secondary education, but we can't fill out an envelope or write a check,
Right.
Or
Right.
get places.
Even with the trade, they still need some skill set. You know, like I said, I'm a school counselor, so we do some career exploration activities with our students, and you know, they may say, you know, I'm going to go into construction. Well, that's great, but do you know how to write an invoice and do the math so that your accounting skills are accurate if you're going to run your own business? So some of those life skills are still important, but they might not see the value in that yet as kids.
Yeah, and I would also contend, just that writing is different. It's a different look for writing. Like my own son struggles tremendously with essay type writings. The other kinds of stuff is not so challenging for him, but I kind of chuckled this year because he was very proud of himself. Well, actually, he wasn't very proud of himself. He made honor roll this year, and I'm going, oh, that's terrific. He goes, well, sort of. He's like, really, the reason I made honor roll is because I don't have to take English this year. That was a struggle point for him, right? And yeah, kind of interesting. And then the other cognitive dissonance point that I'll raise, and I think is rather fascinating. I raised my children to not sweat grades. I said, you know, don't worry about grades. And I get into the weeds about what grades mean and all that stuff, but be curious, right? Be genuinely curious, dig up as much information as you can find about things and dive deep into things. And so my son runs off to college. He's now at SUNY Albany. And he calls me up one day and he says, well, Dad, I'm totally screwed in social studies. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, you know, Dad, you know how I got really kind of fascinated about the colonial era, and I wanted to kind of dig up what the difference was between the British colonial model versus the Portuguese colonial model versus the French model. I'm like, yeah, you know, you were checking out all kinds of stuff. And he said, well, my social studies teacher told me that I can only use the information in this class that he has provided for us. And he said, I'm not really sure what is outside information I learned before and what he's provided for us. He said, Dad, I feel like I've been punished for learning more. It's an interesting concept. right? And I'm here at the college, and so I chatted with a couple of the college professors about that. And I said, well, we kind of sort of understand that because we're kind of vetting what kind of information he knows. And we don't know if the information that he's learned outside of what we've given him is accurate information. Cognitive dissonance, right? Are we supposed to be seeking out knowledge, or are we supposed to be just accepting the knowledge that's given to us?
And that leads, that's bigger questions, you know, it's like, what's our job as a school? What's our job as teachers? Are we teaching specific facts? Are we teaching how to find facts? You know, are we teaching, you know, learn this information, or why is learning this information important? Like, those are, they're bigger questions.
So again, cognitive dissonance. It's very fascinating. Do you know the Latin root words for education?
Oh, Pam.
This one's
Probably
fun to
don't.
do with people. So education has two Latin roots. One is educare and one is educare. Educare means to lead out, right? And so that's that proverbial like enlightenment thinking. For myself, I think of that as being divergent thinking, trying new things, right? Educare means to train or mold, right? And so that to me is, there is a correct way of doing this. We don't want you trying different things, right? There is a proper way. So even within the words of education, there is cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, no.
Fascinating, right?
Yeah.
And so then I challenge teachers a lot to say, which one are we really focusing in on, and which one do you believe in more? Right. So I guess we could actually do that. Like, which, if you had to select one, are you more of an educare person that lead out and say, try different things? Or are you more of the educare person? Whole discussion amongst yourselves. Seriously, I think it'd be interesting to hear what you guys say.
Do you think that your areas of like subject area have something to do with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Because in math, there's
go
not
too
one
far.
way to do things, but
Right.
you know, there's an answer, and so
Right.
there's a solution.
I will,
So-
like you, I will give them more than one way to do it.
Right,
If, and, you know,
yeah. Let them choose,
but
but
there's still,
See, and at my level,
One
it's a
answer.
little different because I'm getting them young.
mhm.
So I almost like don't care as much, but if you can understand the concept of what this means, I
Mhm.
am all for that, because then I know when they get to your level and you're throwing algorithms and this, that, and the other thing, they at least have a reference point for that.
Mhm.
And there's just, they're all so different.
Yeah.
They all need a different, you know, reference point to
Mhm.
make things click. But I mean, I'd rather them say that they got to it on their own way. I think that's kind of built into what I'm doing. It's because they were trying to be shaped and trained in this, that, with their, you know,
Yeah.
typical peers, and it wasn't producing the results that, you know, we want to see. So I'm lucky in that way. I think that's built into what I get to do, is
Yeah.
less of the, we're
right.
gonna tell you how to do it, and more of the, let's figure it out. It works for you. You got it.
Yeah.
I'm lucky.
Mhm.
My last job, homeschooling, was the dichotomy. It was both, because
Yeah.
my goal was to have them learn how to learn, but I wanted them to learn something very specific.
Yeah.
So it was all about getting to that mold and training how to do something particular. But in the process, it was about them figuring out how to find the access to that information and that understanding. So when I was helping other families, you know, homeschool during the epidemic, And, you know, I was having kids come to me from a public school setting and they would sit in front of me and I'd say, okay, here's what we're doing. And I'd stop and they wouldn't start. They would just wait. And they would just wait and they would just wait. And I was like, what are you gonna do? And they're like, I don't know, you didn't tell me what to do. And it was like terrifying to me that these kids did not know how to try, how to start.
Yeah.
You know, so, yeah, I definitely feel like there's a good way to do things, but training them as an individual, each student to know how to find that way is really important.
Take that ownership and molding themselves
Yeah.
while you're guiding, providing the materials that they do the molding, you know, on their own.
Which was kind of what was happening in your room today, right? Like they had to build the lab when I walked in and they had to build a structure and you gave them the stuff and you said they were frustrated, some of them.
Some of them are very frustrated with their creations and what they're making, and you can just tell some of them would just rather give me the directions, I'll write here and I'll follow it to the letter. And then you just throw it at them and they don't know what to do or how, or if it isn't going the way they want to. And there's some real frustration going on right now. But it'll work out.
And so as we're working with our children, how much of our own view is conflicting with their view? So you were talking in math about, you know, a right or wrong answer. I was never a big fan of math because there's always a right or wrong answer. And in chatting with Dr. Dostick there, you know, we got into some great conversations because, you know, there's a thing called the history of math. That would have totally fascinated me. Where did these concepts come from? That's a much more of that Edusarde kind of thinking. Like, I don't care about why, you know, the answer there. I want to know why that's the answer, right? So it's kind of fascinating. But then when I meet somebody that is much more of the Edusarde, like there should be a correct answer, sometimes we can be in conflict, right? Especially if it's a kid. I might be in conflict because I want them to see things differently and they're going, just tell me how to do it.
Yeah.
I see that a lot, especially when I'm, you know, working with kids that are neurodiverse and have a very hard time of seeing things other than black and white. And but this is what it is. And it's like, but no, it doesn't have to just be that. And that a lot of times is most of the battle is just getting them to accept the concept of flexibility. And maybe it's not just a right or wrong all the time. Maybe there's this whole gray area of why and, you know,
When.
variations and when, yeah. So, yeah, it all balances out.
Always fascinating. I love those kinds of conversations because I'm an Edusarde kind of person. So I'm always philosophizing about stuff. External tools of power have occasional utility in teaching, but they are no substitute for authority. The authority that comes from teachers' inner life. The clue is in the word itself, which has the word author at its core. Authority is granted to people who are perceived as authoring their own words, their own actions, their own lives, rather than playing a scripted role. A great remove from, oops, I think I typed that wrong. I don't remember what that part was. Removed from their own hearts. When teachers depend on a coercive power of law or technique, they have no authority at all. By Parker Palmer, from the book Courage to Teach. Has anybody ever read that book?
No.
Just a beautifully written book, and really is about what I would call old school teaching, you know, the care, compassion, and like the I was heavily influenced by the Dead Poets Society, and that kind of always kind of brings back that kind of thinking for me. I don't remember what the point of this was when I put this in here, but I thought it was really fascinating, so I'll tell you the story. Why do doctors still use pagers? It's really kind of an interesting story. I think it was, which one was it? Was it Freakonomics or Planet Money? So they dive into this kind of interesting question of why do doctors still use pagers even though we have much more advanced technologies now? And they banter around a couple of different points, but the one I thought that was really fascinating was, well, when doctors use pagers, the people who are calling the doctor have to make decisions, right? And they have to do the stuff themselves. They said when they gave doctors phones, well, number one, they were getting called constantly. And so those doctors never really had the time off. Like when you page a doctor, it takes time. And a lot of times by the time they get to it, things would be cleared up. So a lot of people didn't page as frequently as they did when they called. The second part of it was they could use the video functions of the phone and get precise information from the doctor. But what they were saying is that most of these people were well trained, right? But they relied on the doctor that they had called because they were the expert, right? And so they relied on the expertise of the higher up, even though they could do it, right? And I think we're seeing a lot of that now. Really fascinating. I don't know if I explained it well. Totally suggest that you take a look at it because it's really fascinating. And I'm not used to the whole slideshow. This one operates a little differently. All right. I don't think we'll have time to get into all of this. The point of this is trust in what you know and practice it. We've known about trauma-informed care for a very long time. Differential reinforcement, a floor time play, that's a really interesting way of working with kids with autism. It's a much more humanistic approach. The idea of working with student strengths have been around since 1996. We've had the ACEs study for a long time. The Explosive Child came out in 1998, and I am a big proponent of Ross Green's work. I don't know if you can see my book here. This is The Lost and Found. We've known what motivates us, and we're doing the exact opposite. We've had a story of justice since 1970, ABA since 1960. So like, we know what we're doing. It's been around. We just need to trust in it more. Do you guys know the surprising truth of what motivates us? Have you seen that Daniel Pink video?
No.
All right, we'll close out on that one because I think it's so fascinating because it comes out, as you can see here, in 2009. And you can see how we did the exact opposite of what Daniel Pink talks about.
Karen, I just want to make a quick comment about that list of trust in what we know. I was fascinated by the dates. I've been in education for over 20 years, so I've seen a lot of those things kind of come through as the new initiatives or things that we're going to focus on. So I was surprised how long some of the things have been around and come back around again. So just an observation as I looked at the dates on that list.
That's a great observation. And a lot of times we'll recode it and we'll give it a different name, right? And it's predictable.
too. That calls into question this idea that if you reward something, you get more of the behavior you want. You punish something, you get less. So let's go from London to the mean streets of Cambridge, Massachusetts, the northeastern part of the United States. And let's talk about a study done at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Here's what they did. They took a whole group of students and they gave them a set of challenges. Things like memorizing strings of digits, solving word puzzles, other kinds of spatial puzzles, even physical tasks like throwing a ball through a hoop. Okay, they gave them these challenges and they said to incentivize their performance, they gave them 3 levels of rewards. Okay, so if you did pretty well, you got a small monetary reward. If you did medium well, you got a medium monetary reward. And if you did really well, if you were one of the top performers, you got a large cash prize. Okay. We've seen this movie before. This is essentially a typical motivation scheme within organizations, right? We reward the very top performers, we ignore the low performers, and the other folks kind of in the middle. Okay, get a little bit. So what happens? They do the test, they have these incentives. Here's what they found out. 1, as long as the task involves only mechanical skill, bonuses work as they would be expected. The higher the pay, the better the performance. Okay, that makes sense. But here's what happens. But once the task called for even rudimentary cognitive skill, a larger reward led to poorer performance. Now, this is strange, right? A larger reward led to poorer performance. How can that possibly be? Now, what's interesting about this is that these folks here who did this are all economists, 2 at MIT, 1 at the University of Chicago, 1 at Carnegie Mellon, okay? Top tier of the economics profession. And they're reaching this conclusion that seems contrary to what a lot of us learned in economics, which is that the higher the reward, the better the performance. And they're saying that once you get above rudimentary cognitive skill, it's the other way around. Which seems like this kind of, the idea that these rewards don't work that way seems vaguely left-wing and socialist, doesn't it? It's kind of this kind of weird socialist conspiracy. For those of you who have those conspiracy theories, I want to point out the notoriously left-wing socialist group that financed the research, the Federal Reserve Bank. So this is the mainstream of the mainstream coming to a conclusion that's quite surprising, seems to defy the laws of behavioral physics. So this is strange, a strange finding. So what do? They say, this is freaky. Let's go test it somewhere else. Maybe that $50 or $60 prize isn't sufficiently motivating for an MIT student, right? So let's go to a place where $50 is actually more significant relatively, right? So we'll take the experiment. We're going to go to Madurai, India, rural India, where $50, $60, whatever the number was, is actually a significant sum of money. So they replicated the experiment in India roughly as follows: small rewards, the equivalent of 2 weeks' salary. Small performance, low performance, 2 weeks salary, medium performance, about a month's salary, high performance, about 2 months salary. Okay, so those are real good incentives. Okay, so you're going to get a different result here. Well, what happened though was that the people offered the medium reward did no better than the people offered the small reward. But this time around, the people offered the top reward, they did worse of all. Higher incentives led to worse performance. What's interesting about this is that it actually isn't all that anomalous. This has been replicated over and over and over again by psychologists, by some extent by sociologists, and by economists, over and over and over again. For simple, straightforward tasks, those kinds of incentives, if you do this, then you get that, they're great. For tasks that are algorithmic, set of rules where you have to just follow along and get a right answer, if then rewards, carrots and sticks, outstanding. But when the task gets more complicated, when it requires some conceptual creative thinking, those kinds of motivators demonstrably don't work. In fact, money is a motivator at work, but in a slightly strange way. If you don't pay people enough, they won't be motivated. What's curious about, there's another paradox here, which is that the best use of money as a motivator is to pay people enough to take the issue of money off the table. Pay people enough so that they're not thinking about money and they're thinking about the work. Now, once you do that, it turns out there are 3 factors that the science shows lead to better performance. Not to mention personal satisfaction. Autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Autonomy is our desire to be self-directed, to direct our own lives. Now, in many ways, traditional notions of management run afoul of that. Management is great if you want compliance, but if you want engagement, which is what we want in the workforce today as people are doing more complicated, sophisticated things, self-direction is better. Let me give you some examples of this, of almost radical forms of self-direction in the workplace that lead to good results. Let's start with this company right here, Atlassian, an Australian company. It's a software company, and they do something really cool. Once a quarter on a Thursday afternoon, they say to their developers, for the next 24 hours, you can work on anything you want. You can work on it the way you want. You can work on it with whomever you want. All we ask is that you show the results to the company at the end of those 24 hours. And this fun kind of meeting, not a star chamber session, but this fun meeting with beer and cake and fun and other things like that. It turns out that that one day of pure undiluted autonomy has led to a whole array of fixes for existing software, a whole array of ideas for new products that otherwise had never emerged. One day. Now, this is not an if-then incentive. This is not the sort of thing that I would have done 3 years ago before I knew this research. I would have said, you want people to be creative and innovative? Give them a freaking innovation bonus. If you do something cool, I'll give you $2,500. They're not doing this at all. They're essentially saying, you probably want to do something interesting. Let me just get out of your way. One day of autonomy produces things that never emerge. Right, let's talk about mastery. Mastery is our urge to get better at stuff. We like to get better at stuff. This is why people play musical instruments on the weekend. You got all these people who are acting in ways that seem irrational economically. They play musical instruments on weekends. Why? It's not going to get them a mate. It's not going to make them any money. Why are they doing it? Because it's fun, because you get better at it, and that's satisfying. Go back in time a little bit. I imagine this if I went to my first economics professor, a woman named Mary Alice Schulman, and I went to her in 1983 and said, Professor Schulman, can I talk to you after class for a moment? Yeah. I got this inkling. I got this idea for a business model. I just want to run it past you. Here's how it would work. You get a bunch of people around the world who are doing highly skilled work, but they're willing to do it for free and volunteer their time, 20, sometimes 30 hours a week. Okay, she's looking at somewhat skeptically there. Oh, but I'm not done. And then what they create, they give it away rather than sell it. It's going to be huge. I mean, she truly would have thought I was insane. Okay, it seemed to fly in the face of so many things. But what do? You have Linux powering 1 out of 4 corporate servers in Fortune 500 companies, Apache powering more than the majority of web servers, Wikipedia. What's going on? Why are people doing this? Why are these people, many of them are technically sophisticated, highly skilled people who have jobs? Okay, they have jobs. They're working at jobs for pay, doing sophisticated technological work. And yet, during their limited discretionary time, they do equally, if not more, technically sophisticated work, not for their employer, but for someone else for free. That's a strange economic behavior. Economists who looked into it, why are they doing this? It's overwhelmingly clear. Challenge and mastery, along with making a contribution. That's it. What you see more and more is a rise of what you might call the purpose motive. Is that more and more organizations want to have some kind of transcendent purpose, partly because it makes coming to work better, partly because that's the way to get better talent. And what we're seeing now is, in some ways, when the profit motive becomes unmoored from the purpose motive, bad things happen. Bad things ethically sometimes, but also bad things just like not good stuff, like crappy products, like lame services, like uninspiring places to work. That when the profit motive is paramount, or when it becomes completely unhitched from the purpose motive, it just, people don't do great things. More and more organizations are realizing and sort of disturbing the categories between what's profit and what's purpose. And I think that actually heralds something interesting. I think that the organizations that are flourishing, whether they're profit, for profit, or somewhere in between, are animated by this purpose model. Let me give you a couple of examples. Here's the founder of Skype. He says, our goal is to be disruptive, but in the cause of making the world a better place. Pretty good purpose. Here's Steve Jobs. I want to put a ding in the universe. All right? That's the kind of thing that might get you up in the morning racing to go to work. So I think that that we are purpose maximizers, not only profit maximizers. I think the science shows that we care about mastery very, very deeply. And the science shows that we want to be self-directed. And I think that the big takeaway here is that if we start treating people like people and not assuming that they're simply horses, slower, smaller, better smelling horses, if we get past this kind of ideology of carrots and sticks and look at the science, I think we can actually build organizations and the work lives that make us better off. But I also think they have the promise to make our world just a little bit better.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you.
I hope it was meaningful.
It's good to be here.
Uh,
Well, so anyways,
I do have a survey for you guys to fill out, but I'll send it to you through email.
Okay.
Erin, I noticed that the session was being recorded. Is that something you can share so I can view the first part of the meeting that I missed?
Sure, if you'd like, yeah,
That'd be helpful. Thank you.
no problem.
Thanks for your time, Erin.
Thank you.
No problem. Hope it was worthwhile.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
You know what I learned most? We're doing pretty good.
When you had,
Yeah.
this, I was like, I keep looking at it, I was like,
Saying that.
this is a real thing, it's a real thing people are doing.
Yeah.
Well, apparently not as close as they can, but
But you guys are
we-
doing
this is
Right.
literally all the conversation we did, like why can't you do this, it's crazy.
Just make it wondering.
Yeah.